Hey guys, welcome back to Refresh Rewinds. I'm Christina, he's Aaron, and today we're watching Scarface from 1983, directed by Brian De Palma.
Yeah, this one's obviously a cult classic. A lot of people have seen it. Surprisingly, some people haven't, in the case of Christina. Actually, I'm kind of guilty. I haven't seen it in a while myself, so it was cool to have a refresher. Without seeing it, what do you know about it?
So, there's lots of cocaine. Pretty sure about that. And he has a little friend, and I think he's a machine gun.
Yeah,
That's about it.
And even just looking at the movie poster, no clues.
No.
No.
He likes black, white, and red, apparently. That's about it.
All right, so how we chose Scarface was our trusty scratch-off movie poster. We randomly drew number 20 on a number generator, and it just happened to be Scarface. So that's how we picked this one. We'll probably come up with some clever ways to pick other movies that may not be on the scratch-off. We'll go off of comments and maybe even just a list of movies you've come up with and I've come up with. So obviously, like what we did with Jurassic Park, we're going to mix this or match this with a mixed drink, and who's going to mess that up? We're going to be drinking Scarface.
Scarface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you how to make it right now. All right, there we go. We just watched Scarface, and man, that was awesome to revisit. For me, so many memorable lines and so many memorable characters, and just a great tale of somebody coming to America and making something for themselves for sure.
Yeah.
So, what initially were your kind of first thoughts of overall? Just kind of
overall, I mean, it's basically just a story about how a nobody from Cuba, maybe a prior criminal, maybe he wasn't a petty criminal, maybe, become like this huge drug lord in Florida.
Right. A lot of ambition.
A lot of ambition.
Yeah, from the start.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about it was you did get to see through the credits and everything, the boats coming over, the prisons emptied out, and the criminal element, along with the people that are just trying to make a better life for themselves, trying to reconnect with their family members in the United States and stuff, and being shipped to Florida, held in camps until they can find a spot for them and get vetted.
Held in camps under the interstate, by the way, in Florida, in Miami. Just under an interstate.
Yeah, probably summertime too.
Yeah. It looked hot and muggy and uncomfortable. Yeah. In 1980, so not exactly AC.
No,
none.
No. What did you think about the camp area and stuff, and kind of how an introduction to the two main characters, Tony Montana, played by Al Pacino, and Manny, or Manolo, played by Stephen Bauer.
Yeah. So they seem like kind of happy-go-lucky guys. You see them talking. Oh, you see Tony talking to Ice, and you find out everything that he tells them, complete lie.
Yeah.
Everything. That his dad is dead. That his mom is dead. He has no family in the U.S. Everything is a lie.
Yeah, and then I think once you find that out, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So flags for you as a spectator for his character.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. But the camp seemed like very happy. It almost was like a block party type happening in the initial month that they show.
Yeah, you could definitely see the difference between the people that are there glad to be there.
Yeah,
I'm
super
out
happy.
of Cuba. I'm out of this dictatorship. Just glad to be on American soil. Can't wait to go see my family in whatever city.
Yeah.
But then you also did have some not so nice guys, some criminal element that wants to get out, make a name for themselves, get some money. Let's make a not just a life, but let's find something that we can really grab a hold of.
Well, and then Tony has a line in there because him and Manny decide to take a job to kill somebody that's in the camp.
Yeah.
And it happens during the riots.
Yeah.
And he has a line in there that says like that he loves to kill communists, but to chop him up or something, he'll do it for fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, so that's where we're going with this right off the bat. Within like the first 20 minutes.
And then that eventually leads into good graces for kind of like underbosses and stuff that kind of have odd jobs, and so once they get out, lie their way through the vetting process, and now they're on the streets, and now they're working in a taco truck, basically. So, but yeah, he definitely hates that, is super frustrated, and it just happens to be right across the street from the Hoppin' nightclub.
Yeah.
That is just revisited over and over throughout the whole movie and stuff. So, yeah, it was a good foreshadowing, like you mentioned before.
I love foreshadowing.
You like, a callback from, oh, look where he is, and he wants to be here, and eventually kind of makes it there.
Yeah. Well, and then he gets to meet Frank and Elvira, which is Michelle Pfeiffer's character.
Right.
And I love her in this.
Yeah.
She's freaking awesome. She has like this like bored, pissed off, like just look on her face almost the entire time.
Yeah.
She looks like she's just bored to go to the same place over and over again to do the same thing because they have all this money to just do whatever they want to.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit confusing in the beginning. She's with Frank, tied to Frank in some manner. He has really no interest in her, and vice versa. She's just there. She's arm candy.
She's the trophy wife.
But
essentially,
I don't think they're married.
I don't think they're married either.
So, but it's confusing, and even now we're like, she never did have to get divorced to get married again.
Well, that's because he died.
Yeah, that's true.
Spoilers.
A lot of people died. Yeah. So, yeah, she had that. There wasn't much backstory on her.
No.
Which I guess is fine, but why is she so discontent? Why is she just kind of there? And you kind of don't even see her blowing the money, going shopping, going on trips and stuff. She's just kind of hanging out and stuff.
I love how they introduce her though. So they show her at Frank's house when Tony is there meeting Frank for the very first time as well. And she's coming down this elevator, and it's a glass elevator.
One story.
Like, what? No, it's a 2-story house. But she only goes down 1 story, yeah. But it's a glass elevator, and I'm like, dang, I want an elevator in my house. But she never turns around, so you only see the backside of her, and I'm like, well, that's a little awkward.
It's a director's choice there. I get that, where it's like a surprise, because that's eventually another callback when Tony confesses that, the first time I laid eyes on you, I wanted you to be my wife. And so, she comes around the corner after getting out, and they zoom in on him, and he's just smitten.
Yeah.
And so that's also confusing too. You're like, oh, this guy has a good heart. He just kind of wants to make a life for himself, wife and kids and job. And so just turns out to not be the job that we think.
Right, exactly. But so then they go to the Babylon, which is like the hot night spot.
Across the street from his taco truck.
Yeah, in Miami. Which straight up like Caesar's flashbacks.
Pillars and marble and everything.
It looks like ancient Greece, Caesar's like all over the place. Like if you were to walk into the casino, that's what it looks like.
It does. Yeah. Fountains
that's
everywhere.
All I got out of it. And there are some terrible dance moves in 1980.
Yeah, she just wants to dance. And Frank is like, get out of here. And
go for it.
And so Tony gets roped into it, and cringy. Yeah. Pretty.
But you never go after the boss's girl. Never.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
But he wants what he wants.
Yeah.
What else? It's a long movie though. It is almost 3 hours. It's maybe 2 hours and 50 minutes. But it kind of does fly by when you just keep looking forward to the next scene. What's going on in Tony's life more and more. One thing I enjoyed was he finally does get a little bit of bread. He gets some money, gets the suits, gets a little bit of. He gets into a car.
Well, that's an ugly car.
It is an ugly car.
With the tiger interior, like, no. I don't blame her for forcing him to buy a Porsche.
Yeah. So he pulls up and it's nighttime, and Manny is driving and pulls up to this little house just on the corner of like a dead-end street. And you're like, who's this? We don't know who this is. Everybody else has mansions and we're used to glitz and glamour. And he goes up to it and it's his mom.
Yeah.
And
who's like, not happy to see him, by the way.
And he lied and said that she was dead. Well, she'd obviously been there for a while.
Yeah.
And then you find out his sister.
His baby sister.
Yeah. She comes out and is super excited to see him. Apparently he's been...
gone for 5 years.
Been back in Cuba for 5 years while they've been in the States and stuff. And the interaction between Mom and Tony was not pleasant. Like, she's assuming that he's probably fallen back into his old ways of what he was doing
in Cuba.
And she's, who'd you have to kill for this? And you can't just be coming in here throwing money around.
Yeah.
So it's his mom, and he can't go off on her, and he doesn't, and he respects her, and he still wants to give the money to his sister. What's her name again? Gina. Gina, is reluctant to take the money because she knows her mom is not going to be happy. Yeah. So finding out that he has a family adds a whole nother dimension to it too. He's not just this lone wolf trying to make a name for himself and work his way up the criminal ladder. So I thought that was an interesting, not so much heartfelt, but kind of tries to throw some humanization.
Yeah, to humanize them. Yeah. Definitely, for sure.
Oh, we also did make the Scarface drink here. You saw it earlier. Very tasty.
Takes me back to my younger days.
Yeah, Kahlua and milk. But yeah, give it a shot. Try it next time you revisit Scarface.
So then he goes down to Bolivia to try to make this drug deal for Frank.
Act as his right-hand man, but he's kind of not been appointed that yet. No.
And so he's trying to make this deal where he's buying 150 kilos a month of cocaine. Yeah. That's a lot. And so he negotiates a deal to bring it in for $18 million, but they're going to make $75 million on it.
Which is that's a good return.
Yeah. And then on top of it, the guy kills the partner that came down with Tony because...
F. Murray Abraham plays the character that comes with Tony.
Okay.
And he gets pulled aside. Is it Sosa is the guy that he sees? And they had found out that he'd been working or is undercover or is with a rat. Cops, yeah, or something.
With like the DEA.
They get that phone call and you see them... Tony and I forget the other guy's name, but they're talking, they're arguing, and he's saying like, "What are you doing? You're overreaching. We can't do that." And he's like, "Yeah, we can. And you see Sosa and his associate talking on the phone, and they're not really talking on the phone. And then you think they're talking about Tony. You think it's gonna go one way or another, and Tony opts to stay the night there. Is told, go ahead and be here and make sure he's not up to anything. And then they take the character away and they show him up
in a helicopter.
And
he looks beat up.
Yeah.
But he has like a rope or something tied around his neck.
It's kind of hard to see that initially, and then you think he's just going to be tossed over into the countryside.
That's what I thought.
And then
they hang him. Just push him out of a helicopter. That's so brutal.
Yeah. So that coupled with the gripping scene of the drug deal and money exchange gone bad in the hotel. Yeah. And that was the first scene that I remember The first time I saw Scarface was the chainsaw scene.
Oh God, that was.
So you don't see
a lot of gore.
You don't see much of it. Ton of blood everywhere. Once again, another guy that Tony's there with, and it just seems like he's just bad luck Tony, but he ends up getting chopped all to bits.
Mm-hmm.
And right before Tony's gonna get his, luckily Manny breaks in.
His backup, Manny, who was hitting on girls at the car.
He hits on girls all the time. That's
true.
the American dream right there.
Yeah.
So for him, and he comes in, kind of saves the day, whatever. And there's just horrible stormtrooper bullets flying everywhere because nobody can hit anybody in a hotel room with, like, you know, automatic weapons.
Yeah.
So Tony ends up chasing this guy into the
street and just shooting him
on a Sunday afternoon at noon, and just point blank right in the head. You hear cop sirens, and then they jump in, and they're out of there,
covered in blood.
And so, but both of those deals ends up getting him to kind of
to a higher spot,
work his way into the good graces of Frank and Sosa and stuff like that. So I liked also the wedding montage, kind of.
Oh, the typical 80s montage where it's like music and they kind of fast forward through the whole movie. Yeah. To get you where they want you to go.
But I remember that as well, and then you look and there's nobody there. No. You think you look and it's a big scene. It's a framed, and they're on a nice backyard and with the fountain and the pillars and everything looks great. But then you look and there's nobody. There's no friends, no family. Nobody's at this wedding except for a couple of people had showed up to witness it, and then they get married and that was it. Yeah. So, but then that was the pivotal kind of the midway of the movie, and also now Tony's got power, and now he's got money, and he's got his own place, and he's got the girl. So that's when it starts to get interesting and juggling.
He kind of starts to lose control. Not fully, but you can start to see that thread getting pulled. Yeah. Yeah. And it just slowly starts unraveling. You see his marriage is getting worse. You can tell that Elvira's losing her patience with him. She's doing more and more cocaine, which she says in the beginning it's like lesson number 2. Don't get high on your own stash.
Own supply.
Yeah. And here she is, literally every scene you just see her sniffing.
It seems like after that, every scene kind of had somebody doing something.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're drinking, they're doing cocaine, they're smoking cigarettes and cigars. I mean, just constantly throughout the entire second half.
And I guess when you tell somebody to run a bath for you, you have to tell them a day in advance. Yes. Because that was the biggest bathtub.
And you have to climb down into it.
Yeah. I was waiting for him to drop the remote in it, and she'd be like, oh, damn
yes.
it. And just but.
Well, I mean, at least you had a TV in there, because it's definitely, if you're going to take a bath, you're going to be in there for a minute.
You don't want to waste all that water.
Well, no.
I mean, you just filled it up for 24 hours. Yeah. And then you added Mr. Bubble. So, yeah, you go through a couple of cigars while watching Price is Right or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So we made it halfway through the movie now, and he's kind of worked his way up through power. He's kind of got something. Who did you start to care for? What character kind of was like, you know what, I feel for them, or I just really even hate them going forward? You're just anxious to see kind of what happens. How does this unfold for this particular character?
My favorite character throughout the entire thing was Manny. Yeah. I loved him. He was personable, he was fun-loving, he was constantly going after the girls, but he was there for Tony. He was his right-hand man. He's there for whatever Tony needs. He's gonna do exactly what Tony says, no matter what. He doesn't question him.
Yeah, right. Yeah, in the beginning, he's, I wouldn't say he's the voice of reason, but you could tell he kind of does have a little bit more of a moral compass.
Oh, for sure.
Even though he is carrying out probably stuff that we don't even know about, that we don't see in the movie. But yeah, he was also one of my favorite ones too. But Tony himself, being so driven, but so eager to get it now. Now. And ultimately getting something and still not being happy. And like I said earlier, the bad luck Tony situation, it seems like everybody tied to him, close to him, really other than his mom, ends up kind of coming to an end.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you can almost tie everything back to a decision that he had made, or
the biggest
putting
one,
somebody in a situation.
The biggest one is that Sosa was revealed in a news article that was going to air, and so he asked Tony, well, like, hey, I'm going to help you out because Tony got arrested for basically tax evasion.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't paying any taxes on his $75 million.
Yeah, they were counting the money, and they ended up having a clock camera, and everybody there was an informant or a cop.
So Sosa is like, hey, we'll take care of that for you, but I need you to take care of this guy for me. So he goes to New York to take care of the guy, but turns out that his wife and kids are in the car, and so he goes, well, I don't want to blow up the car because I'm not going to be responsible for killing a wife and her kids.
Yeah, and that's, you kind of think like, okay, maybe this is going to take another turn.
Yeah.
And
like he has some sort of moral compass still, at least.
Yeah, so he spares that life. The other guy that has set it up, that is kind of the hitman for Sosa, is in the passenger seat, and he's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, this needs to get done. And everybody in the back, everybody is telling him and pressuring him, look, they do realize the dire circumstances.
Yeah.
That this needs to get done, or like this whole thing crumbles. And he goes, nope, not gonna do it, and ends up putting a bullet, point blank right through this dude's head and everything, and
then drives around New York with the blood splattered window for how long?
Yeah, Pulp Fiction style.
Yeah.
So yeah, that basically that decision, the one time that he has a heart and has a sensibility about him, ultimately led to his demise, his attack on his mansion and stuff. So they go to the nightclub, and that's where, for me, Richard Belzer is an actor and a comedian and a lot more stuff after he had come out in this movie. And I remember you had made the comment, you're like,
it turns him from a nightclub into a comedy club? Like, what? That just does not make sense. But then the guys that Sosa initially hires to kill him, they do the worst job covering up their guns, by the way. A napkin over the gun does not hide it.
And when they kick on the lights is when they felt the need to be able to expose them.
Yeah.
And then the lights kick off, and then they cover them. I'm like, wait,
that's reverse.
Yeah. But you see Tony in that same scene got his own, VIP section.
But nobody's there with him.
And nobody's there, and he's just slumped over, and he's drunk as hell. And you're like, man, like, I don't feel bad for him. And you kind of just know he's going to get out of whatever might be happening, whatever type of tricks this guy's up to.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he ends up evading those guys.
Yeah,
they unload and miss him. Well, they do hit him.
Like in the shoulder.
Something like that.
Yeah. Like a non-threatening shot, really.
Yeah.
But then, is that when he finds out that Gina has a house? And that she's there with a guy? Is that before or after the Babylon shooting?
Yeah, he goes... Does he get picked up by someone?
He gets picked up by his guys. And then they... Pretty sure they find... Like, they're like, oh, Gina bought a house.
We need to go someplace safe because obviously there's a hit out on you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's when he goes to Gina's place, and Manny answers the door. And there's kind of an undertone of when he first sees, when he goes to his mom's house and Gina comes out and he's trying to give her the money and stuff, and Manny sees her, and then he had commented, he goes, "Oh man, she grew up like
Yeah.
nice," and he's like, "Don't you ever talk to my sister
Yeah.
about my sister like that." And he's like, okay. But then at the wedding, you also see them make eyes at each other, and so you're kind of thinking, okay, that
he protects her in the bathroom when that guy
happen.
is like trying to make out with her in a men's restroom, like gross.
Yeah, yeah. So both of them are trying to protect her. One by force and one just kind of by like, you know what, let me take care of you instead of let me take care of all your problems and never really doing anything about it. And that's what Tony's doing. So then, yeah, he ends up at Gina's place. Manny answers the door, and then he looks up, and you can tell that they had just gotten done having a little bit of fun.
Yes.
So she's happy to see Tony.
Yeah.
She
walks out of the room all happy and excited to talk to him. But Tony just pulls the trigger twice and shoots Manny in the stomach.
Yeah.
And just leaves him there for dead.
Well, she comes running down. She's distraught. And she tells him that they had just got married the day before.
Yeah.
And so it's the happiest. Think of it from her perspective. It's like, she didn't tell Tony, but she knows him so well.
Yeah.
And she knows that she's going to have to tell him at the right time, break it to him like in a safe place.
Yeah.
And they weren't expecting him to show up the day after. They're literally on their honeymoon-ish.
Yeah.
And they're having a good time. They got a new house. You're in love. And then that happens.
Yeah.
And that's when the snowball goes downhill, and it's not good from there.
Yeah.
So then, he goes back home, and his wife Elvira, Michelle Pfeiffer's character, is like done.
Yeah, you don't see her for like the rest of the movie.
Yeah, she goes, "I'm heading off to Baltimore. I'm heading to where my family's at. You figure your stuff out, and call me when you call me." You know, and so she leaves, probably the only person that escaped any type of bullets.
Yeah.
So Tony's at home, and he's got all the security cameras. And
he's got the biggest freaking pile of cocaine you've ever seen. And every time he does more, he just like shoves his whole face in it.
He's like cutting it with like a book. Like it's just like...
I don't even think it's a book. I think he just takes his hand and he just like swipes it over and he makes a line of it.
Snorts the hell out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like he has it like stuck on his nose and he's just like wiping it off and it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, all those security cameras and you don't see any of this army type ambush coming for you.
So one of his guys that was there with him a little bit further back used to work for Frank.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's my favorite scene. That guy. So he kills Frank. He kills this dirty DEA cop that wants to make a deal with him. And he's like, no, I'm not going to make a deal. So he has Manny shoot Frank.
Yeah.
They kill the DEA cop. And then they look at this other guy and... they're like,
he just knows he's next.
Yeah, he's like, oh crap, I'm gonna get shot.
And it's like high tension music and everything.
Yeah, and Tony looks at him and he goes, hey, you want a job? And he's like, yeah, Tony, I want a job. It's like hands down. Like I laughed so hard at that because I'm like, you're staring death in the face. And you're like, oh my God.
And then they just leave and he's just there with like dead bodies and stuff. And he's like, okay, I guess we're still doing this.
We're still doing it.
So, yeah, he ends up with Tony back at the mansion. And you see on the security camera just little bits of this army
coming over the wall, shooting his guards. Like, they're slowly taking people out.
And working their way in and stuff. So, but yeah, that ultimately kind of leads into the scene that you may have heard, the meme that you might have seen, and he grabs, his
a machine gun.
His machine gun with the grenade
it's a
launcher.
Bazooka or something.
With
like
the grenade launcher, yeah.
Did not expect that. I was shocked when that went off the first time. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. That's not just a machine gun. I was like, that's not a machine gun.
He waits for them to crowd around. He's in his office and everything. Everybody else around him was kind of dead.
His sister just died because there was an assassin outside of his office, thought that it was him that he was shooting, and just sprayed Gina full of bullets.
Yeah. So he ends up killing his best friend. His sister dies in front of him. He can't believe it. She's dead, and he's still talking to her like it's going to be okay and everything.
Like she's still good.
It's like the heartwarming moment, but he's like, you know what? I'm invincible. He's loaded with cocaine. So he can't feel anything. He's watching on the camera, and his office door is closed, and he waits for like 5 or 6 of them to show up, and he's all, say hello to my little friend, and blows open the door, kills those guys, runs out to the balcony, and it's 30.
It's apparently the best shot in the entire movie.
30 on 1. He's just boom, 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 picking everybody off and stuff, and you're like, is this guy really going to get out of this too?
Yeah, I thought so.
There's that one assassin, the assassin that, did that guy kill Gina and get away with it? No, he shot him.
He shot him, yeah.
So you can tell they're following around this, like, you know, the sharpshooter for this army and stuff, and pumps them full of just a whole magazine full of lead.
Yeah.
And Tony ends up falling from the balcony. I mean, he didn't take the elevator that time.
No, he did not.
Lands face down in the pool, and it pans up to the iconic when
the statue.
It's the statue of the world where it says, you know, the world is yours, which is what he ultimately saw, the blimp. And it was for American Airlines. It was for it was just the world is yours. It was, and he just kind of took that to heart, and he said, yes, it is mine.
It's mine.
But it's hard to say how long that timeline was from the time he showed up in Cuba. I'm assuming a few years, not a whole lot. There wasn't a lot of aging.
No, definitely not.
So it could have been just within a year and a
maybe
half,
two.
Yeah. But to rise to power the way he did and wreak all the havoc.
Yeah, it was a lot.
So it's your first time watching it. I'm revisiting it. It's just as good as it was before. I guess I'm going to give it, you know,
out of 10.
Out of 10, an 8.5 piles of cocaine. Out of 10.
Dang.
I mean, it's still fun. It's still, you know, just that gangster movie that you can always watch. And there's a ton of gangster movies, and I gotta imagine that a lot of those led to a lot of other Pacino roles in that aspect. A lot of other directors and actors were inspired by that character or that director. Or they're like, you know what, like these guys did it. We can up it and stuff. Yeah. So I'm sure eventually we're gonna get to a lot of those Goodfellas and Casino,
The Godfather, and all that
Godfather
stuff.
And all that stuff. So if you were to rate it, what are you looking at?
So I gave it a 6 out of 10 Machine Guns, and I did that because it's an iconic movie. I'm happy I watched it. I think everybody should watch it at least once. I don't think it's one that I would ever revisit.
Yeah.
It's just not my style of movie. I did enjoy the fact that we got to see his entire arc throughout the entire movie. But it's really long, and there's really no plot. Like, it's a movie about a drug dealer.
Yeah, so instead of having a plot where there's a revenge or somebody you forgot about comes back or whatever, it's more of plodding along.
Yeah.
So
the acting was absolutely hands down amazing. I loved it. It's just that the plot and my style of movie, it's not. Yeah. So I'm happy I got to watch it. I feel a little bit better watching it now. Because when people talk about it, I would just sit there and be like, yeah. Okay.
No, you could chime in.
I can chime in now.
Did you like the cinematography and the layouts and the scenes and it's typical 80s?
Oh, it's straight 80s.
You felt like that you were there.
Yeah. But I love 80s movies.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was great.
The music, did you like the music?
The music was pretty generic. I didn't really recognize any songs specifically.
Right.
But got to use a little bit of my Spanish skills.
A couple
The
of
limited that I have.
yeah, though I guess it could have been. It would have been cool to have like a typical '80s hit tied to it. That would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, that was about the big thing that it was missing. Was that the soundtrack wasn't really anything fantastic.
Right, right.
So
it just kind of, it was there and you don't notice it type of thing.
It complimented the movie.
But then it did go quite a bit. There's a lot of dialogue, so there wasn't much music.
Yeah, no, there wasn't time for music.
All right. Well,
I think that's it.
I'm glad we were able to cross something off of the list that I've been keeping for you.
Yeah.
So maybe next time we'll look at something that I haven't seen that you have that might surprise some people that I haven't seen something.
Yeah.
So follow us, like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what type of movies you might want us to take a look at. It'd be really cool to see a movie that we both haven't seen.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know that we've got one that we haven't touched on. That's got to be coming pretty soon. We don't want to let you know too soon before. So anyway, thanks for joining us. I'm Aaron.
I'm Christina.
And see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks again, guys, for joining us here at Refresh Rewinds as we watched Scarface, Christina's first time. Hope she would have liked it a little bit more, but hey, occasionally you run into movies like that. I believe our next one is a movie that Christina absolutely loves, and I've been trying to avoid. So join us next time for a chick flick.